Hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar with Turnkey Technologies and Paystand today. I'm Luke. I'm on the Turnkey side here with us, and I'm joined by Zach from Paystand. We're glad you could join us, and we're going to dig in today to how, 5 ways where you can simplify your AR process and get paid faster in Microsoft Dynamics, whether it's GP, BC, finance and supply chain management. So with that, I will go ahead and hand it off to Zach and we can get this thing going.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, hello everyone. For those of you that haven't met me, I'm Zachary Van Pelt. I serve as a senior account executive today, and I'm going to be walking you through the functionality of Paystand and the demo as it relates to our ERP integration. So, what we'll look at specifically will be an integration with Business Central, but just know we are agnostic inside the Dynamics ecosystem. So, whether you're on BC or whether you're on upstream of F&O or even a predecessor such as Nav, Solomon, Great Plains, we can definitely provide some of that functionality. We'll save time at the end for some Q&A. We can take those in the chat. If not, I'll throw up some contact information for us. You can feel free to reach out to me directly with any questions or Luke on the Turnkey side as well. So some of the challenges that we're addressing in the space right now is, a lot of teams are still doing a lot of things manually when it comes to AR, right? There's a lot of functionality in their ERP and that out of the box capabilities, but a lot of times there's certain things that are left behind. So luckily in the dynamic space, they lean on some of their ISV partners such as Paystand to be able to provide and round out some of that desired functionality that they might have had with the previous solution. So usually that takes place in the form of limited payment options like, hey, it's either credit card or you blind push me an ACH. The problem with that is then it leads to a clunky reconciliation, and then there's fees associated with that. So a lot of times you're losing margin or part of your revenue due to the high cost to collect revenue. So what we're going to be walking you through here, first of all, is how do we accelerate your revenue collection? So we're going to offer payment links. We'll do that so that when we reach out with that invoice and send a reminder, we'll have a payment link right on there. The nice thing is we can give your payers a frictionless way to do that with one-click payment experiences. And the nice thing about that on the payee side or the invoicing organization side is that when you actually do get paid, you're collecting those funds much quicker. You're making it very easy for your payers to get that revenue in your door. Also, it's payer agnostic, if you will. We're not provide or asking them to do a login or anything like that. That payment link will be automatically tied to the invoice. They can submit that payment without doing an account creation or login credentials or anything like that, and use the multitude of payment methods that Paystand's offering to get you paid. Also, we'll look at some auto pay capabilities as well. Depending on the payer base that you have or industry that you're in, you might want to accelerate that revenue collection and put it on autopilot through a vehicle such as AutoPay. The nice thing about our integration is it doesn't need to be a fixed amount. You don't need to track the age of that receivable to initiate that AutoPay because we are tied to the invoice record as our source of truth in your ERP. We'll actually track the due date and the age of the receivable and run that auto pay for you, and it can be a variable amount. Again, it doesn't need to be a fixed payment amount, which can give you and your team some confidence as well, right? Additionally, we'll look at some collection plans. A lot of organizations that we work with, they have a payment processor in place, but they're still pretty manual when it comes to the collection side of the house. So I speak with a lot of finance and AR teams that are still beholden to running those aging AR reports, tracking the age of the receivable against the terms. And then once it gets to a certain point, they're conducting that manual outreach with a lack of transparency as to what's going on or why they're not getting paid. So I'm going to show you some really great functionality and additional transparency that's going to do some of that outreach on your behalf and then give you insights into, hey, is this being looked at by them? Are they reviewing it? Are they clicking on it? And things of that nature. So really kind of expand your team's capabilities and give them the tools at their fingertips to sort through that data and reach out in an automated fashion so they're not being bogged down by these tedious tasks. Also, we'll look at additional ways to pay, right? So we do offer credit card, ACH, and we'll also offer bank to bank. And I'll even show you how we can help your team accept checks, but do so in a way where you're not waiting on that snail mail a week or a week and a half to get to your office or to your lockbox. your payers can still put that ink to paper, but we'll digitally process that so those funds are settling into your account much quicker, which obviously is helping you accelerate that cash flow. Lastly, I want to show you statement view or multi-invoice presentment as well. Again, depending on your payer base or the engagements that you have with your payers, a lot of times they have more than one invoice outstanding at a time. So just kind of supporting the theme of accelerating that revenue collection, what we could do is give them a very slick interface, almost a circumvented portal view where they can look at all of their invoices real time. And when they do that, they can make one payment across many invoices, again, removing friction from that payment process. The great thing is we're using those individual invoices as your source of truth. So once that payment does take place, we'll actually go back into the ERP and create the journal entries on the GL and individually reconcile those invoices. But again, it's helping you accelerate that revenue collection and helping those funds get into your bank account even faster. Okay. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is kind of jump into the meat and potatoes here and walk you through where Paystand is picking up that baton. So I'm just grabbed a posted invoice. And again, we're going to work out of Business Central today, but just keep in mind we do extend these capabilities to other ERPs within the Dynamics ecosystem. But obviously, in the interest of time, I'm not going to be able to show you all of that. So what we have here is a posted invoice. And once we have a posted invoice, the goal is to get this into the payer's hands and get you paid as soon as possible. So what Paystand's actually done is we've leveraged Business Central's email engine, and we've dropped in pre-configured templates for the invoicing organization or the payee to leverage. So what they can do is they can just select one of those pre-configured templates, and then now you can see you have a nice pretty preview of what your payer will see, which is, dear customer, you have invoice 3710 in the amount of $1,000. You can conveniently pay now by just selecting the button or the link provided, right? Just keep in mind here, I do want to highlight the fact that we are in a demo environment. So where you see this Paystand branding, go ahead and imagine that that would be the payee or the invoicing organization as opposed to the Paystand logo, right? Our whole goal is to push your brand, help you accelerate that revenue collection, remove that friction, and part of doing that is having them initiate payment to an organization that they're familiar with, right? So for all intents and purposes, we're kind of the Oz behind the curtain, and they can kind of think that, it's your technology for all we care. So with that in mind, what we care about is we're requesting the amount. We have branding and logo there, and we have that payment link for them to initiate payment. And I'll go ahead and send that email out. Now, what I did is I went ahead and I made myself the AR contact for this customer. So I'm going to switch over now into the payers or the recipient of the invoice's shoes and interact with that payment link, if you will. So what I'll do is I'll jump back here, and sure enough, I already have a request for payment. We do bring the invoice over and attach that PDF if they want to review it as well. But for today's demo, we just want to focus on getting paid. So I'll go ahead and select that payment experience here for you. And then as you see, there was no login required. I just select that payment link and I'm brought to a multitude of payment options. Again, just kind of sticking and supporting the theme of branding, payment experience, etc. I just want to give you an idea of what this might look like. We are in the Dynamics community, so just thought it'd be fun to kind of throw out an idea of what that branding color scheme logo looks like. I put this together. I'm not a designer by trade, so bear with me, but this just gives you an idea of the creativity that you and your marketing and branding team can utilize when working with Paystand. Another thing I want to show you before I kind of walk through that payment experience is that multi-invoice presentment or statement view that I talked about earlier. So for me as a payer, instead of me having to navigate between 10 different emails to make 10 different invoices, you can always provide the payer with a statement link or a multi-invoice link that they can go through, and they can select all to get you paid, or they can come through and individually pay these. If you are an organization that allows partial payments or anything like that, they can come through and they can even make partial payments against those invoices, and we'll create a journal entry on the customer ledger for that amount. And then depending on what that engagement looks like, if there is a remaining amount, we'll automatically use those collection plans to see that there was a partial payment and reach out automatically to collect on the remaining amount as well. Okay. The nice thing about this as well is this is, for our BC integration specifically, this is a dynamic URL that's calling back to that customer record or customer card. So what a lot of payers do when they're interacting with Paystand, or what the invoicing organization asks them to do, is just go ahead and bookmark this link or this URL when it's sent to them. And now what I can do as the payer is I don't have to be relying on getting notifications from you. I can bookmark this as my vendor, and I can go ahead and come back to this at any time and review any outstanding invoices. Because it is a dynamic link and it's calling back to the ERP of record, anytime I revisit this or refresh this, it's automatically pulling in any invoices that are outstanding at that time to initiate any payments or outstanding invoices. So just kind of keep that in mind. But with that, just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what that looks like. But let's go ahead and interact with this payment experience. So one of the nice things about Paystand and the power of working with Paystand is we actually try to avoid transaction fees. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually surface a bank-to-bank payment method which doesn't have a transaction fee tied to it, right? So one of the problems with credit card is obviously you have to pay the Amexes, the Visas, the MasterCards of the world for adding really no value to the process. Whereas here with bank-to-bank, there is no transaction fee. There's no decision on, do I want to incur those fees as the payee, or do I want to present those fees to the payer? So with that in mind, we still offer obviously a multitude of payment methods. We're all about getting that revenue in the door and expanding those payment options. So we'll still offer legacy ACH and credit card. But again, the nice thing with credit card is now, since you're offering those alternatives, you kind of have that leg to stand on, and you're staying compliant and saying, hey, if you want to pay credit card, that's fine. We'll offer that to you, but we're going to ask that you incur those transaction fees because we've invested in these cost-effective payment alternatives for you to pay us. Nice thing about working with Paystand as well is it is very configurable, right? So this isn't a one-size-fits-all blanketed approach. Just because I might be getting a fee on credit card doesn't mean the next organization that you're invoicing is going to be presented with that fee. We understand that these payer engagements are unique and on a case-by-case basis. So we're going to give you that control panel to dictate, whether it be the transaction fees or even the payment methods, which I'll show you later. You might not even offer credit card to some of your payer bases. So we'll take a little bit of a look into that later with our fees and incentives plans that you're going to control. So just kind of keep that in mind. Also, they can enroll in autopay. So I'll show you a little bit later in the AR dashboard how you can request a token to do autopay. But again, we want to take the burden off of your plate. So we'll actually allow self-enrollment here and kind of an autonomous autopay enrollment on your payer's behalf at the time of that payment, so that moving forward when invoices are issued, if they want to go ahead and kind of take this off of their plate, they can enroll in that autopay and have that taken care of automatically, just putting that revenue collection on autopilot and accelerating that for you. Before I walk you through this payment, bank-to-bank payment experience, because I'm sure that's the new one, everyone's familiar with ACH and credit card, I do want to show you Smart Check because, prior to the last 18 months, a lot of the feedback that I heard from finance and AR teams is hey, I'm working with these organizations that just want to write check. They're just like to put the ink to the paper. They have this due diligence process that they're doing and making sure nothing is duplicated in terms of their finance, accounting, etc. So they want to write those checks. Well, that's completely fine. However, what's not fine is that you have to wait for those checks to come in the snail mail, and now you're not getting paid for 7 to 10 business days. So what we've done is we made a conscientious effort to meet them halfway and allow them to put that ink to paper, but we'll actually process those funds digitally and get you paid much faster. And again, accelerate that revenue collection. So if I'm a payer and I write a check, I can just select check, and now I can just scan a QR code with my device. It'll ask me to snap a picture of that check, and now that'll be processed digitally. The nice thing about that as well is that downstream reconciliation and automation that Paystand is going to do for you. So not only are you getting paid faster, but now we're streamlining that downstream process in terms of cash application and deposit reconciliation. Whereas if they continue to just write checks the way they're doing it and sending them snail mail, you're waiting that long time to get paid, and then it's also burdened on your team's end to go ahead and do those manual reconciliation processes, which can be very time consuming, right? So we've gotten a lot of good feedback, so I wanted to make sure I touched on that. Now what I want to do is I want to pivot over to the bank-to-bank payment method because again, there is no cost transaction fee associated with initiating a bank-to-bank payment method. So I'll walk you through this here. So I'll log in and I'll say this is my login credentials. And this is unique to Paystand, the bank to bank. It's not offered with other AR providers, and there's a couple added benefits here. As you can see, it's a little bit more of a secure payment method, so we're able to grab additional details when we're facilitating this payment and lower that risk. And there's benefits on the backside of that. Um, One of those being real-time fund verification, which I'll show you here when those accounts are circumvented, but also the payment time and the processing time is faster as well. If the payment's made early enough in the day, we'll actually be able to settle those funds into your bank account next business day, which again is accelerating that revenue collection. The nice thing here is this is a three-way handshake between the payer, the pay stand, and the financial institution in which they're initiating the payment from. Obviously, for security reasons, this is the payment interface that the bank is going to surface and that they're used to, again, giving them familiarity and removing friction from that process. So if they have two-factor authentication and they get an alert to their app, it's the same thing that will happen here. If they have a security question, we'll go ahead and surface that for them. If they do have a security question, I really hope it's a little more secure than you say tomato, I say tomato, but for demo and purposes and to keep things moving, we went ahead and made this very easy on me because Lord knows I forget my security questions. With that in mind, I'll go ahead in here and I'll say this is Zach. I'm logging into my company or business bank account, and it's going to surface the accounts tied to my login as an authorized user. And now, as you see here, it's surfacing the accounts that have a sufficient balance and that are in the correct currency to initiate payment. So now all I have to do is select that corresponding account, say that's where I want to initiate payment. It's going to summarize the payment information that I've put in throughout this process, and that's tied to my organization, etc. And I'll go ahead and select Pay Now, and we'll initiate that payment. So again, very easy, very branded, very streamlined on my side. Again, I can make payment on one invoice or a multitude of invoices. And now it'll actually let me know real time the payment was made successfully, that payment was posted. I'll also get an email, or if I want, I can go here as a payer and I can print that receipt real time. The benefits and the real time transparency not only happen on the payer side, but also on the payee side, because you will also, as the invoicing organization, get an email letting you know, hey, Zachary at company ABC just made payment against invoice 3710 in that amount. We are, facilitating the payment for you, and those funds will be settled into your account momentarily, etc. So just kind of keep that in mind. The nice thing now as well is I'll go ahead and get rid of that. Is we'll go back to that customer, and normally what would happen is you would be handling that reconciliation process. But if I go back to this customer and look at their ledger entries, the 13th, which is today, you can see Paystand and the power of the integration with Business Central here. We went ahead and did that cash application for you as soon as you're paid. So again, just giving real-time transparency and insight, depending on your vertical or industry, it might allow you to fulfill orders quicker, allow additional orders and things like that. Whereas if you don't have this real-time transparency and you're not doing the reconciliation until those funds clear into your bank account, this kind of flips that on its head and says, hey, we break reconciliation down into two steps. First is cash application, which you've seen here once that payment's been processed with Paystand. And that's kind of the nice thing about Paystand being a full AR bundle where we're doing the collections, the AR automation, and the payment processing, is we can give you that real-time transparency. Now, obviously, the deposit piece I can't show real time because that's going to settle in the next day or two, depending on payment method, etc. But just know that we take it a step further and actually do the deposit reconciliation or deposit matching for you as well. Once those funds have cleared into your account, we'll inject a deposit report via API back into Business Central and kind of close that invoice lifecycle out for you, right? So that's an ideal scenario where, hey, we've gotten that payment link out, we've gotten paid much faster, we've went ahead and did the reconciliation process for you inside of your ERP, kind of keeping everything in mind. Now, variant two is, hey, what if they're not making a payment on that payment link when I send that out and they're not on autopay? Well, what Paystand's done is we offer an AR dashboard for you to utilize as well. And now we'll go ahead and do some of that follow-up for you, or that automated outreach in terms of automated collection plans. Okay, so what you see here are these receivables with the integration with Business Central. It's a bi-directional sync between the ERP and this AR dashboard that we're giving you. One thing I always get asked is, hey, is this restricted on license? Is this hard to use? The answer is no. Okay, so there's a lot of organizations where they might have certain people that they don't want to get a license for their ERP, but they want them to have transparency, so they're having to grab certain data and extract it, where you can give them access to this AR dashboard. They're not messing around in the ERP, but they can grab the data that they need necessary to do their task in terms of follow-up on these receivables, etc. But again, it is a bi-directional sync, so nothing you're doing to bring those invoices over, that automatically is transmitted into the AR dashboard for you to utilize. I get asked all the time, how often does that update? It's not the end of the day. It is as real time as it can be. I don't want to get in trouble with my solutions team, but it is in a couple seconds. So in the blink of an eye, these receivables will be here for them to utilize. Now, what we've done is went ahead and kind of designed this dashboard on, hey, as an AR team, or as a team that's focused on collections and receivables, what is it that they might want to utilize, or what might be valuable to them? So we've given them these filters, or these sorting mechanisms up top. Is, do I want to filter by unpaid? Do I want to look at what's current? Do I want to look at it by customer? But typically what we see is they want to know based on the age of the receivable. Again, using your ERP as the system of record, we're already tracking the age of those receivables. So with that, we can give you a drill down and give you further granularity on how old is this receivable and what do I want to take action on, right? So you as an organization say, hey, we have a really hard time collecting invoices once they get past 90 days. So you might task your AR team with, hey, right now I want you focused on any receivable that's between 60 and 90 days, because we're running the risk of not being able to collect on that. So again, just allows them to get the data at their fingertips, not worry about tracking the age of that. We'll give them that data to be able to take action on. Additional capabilities here is these are those receivables, and I'll show you here how we can look at all receivables under one given customer. But for example here, maybe I want to enroll them in AutoPay. They're not enrolling, but I got off the phone with them. They'd be interested. Well, what I can do is just select AutoPay. I can request a payment token, and now an email will go out to that client or that payer saying, hey, I'd like to request a payment token on behalf of invoicing organization XYZ, and now they'll save that payment method for you to utilize moving forward in that auto pay. One thing to note here, and the nice thing about having this dashboard as well, is we're storing those payment tokens on our servers, so we're actually absolving organizations of the need to maintain that PCI compliance, and we're taking that burden on for you. Now, additional capabilities here in this quick click configuration is, if I want to select a receivable, I can come up here and I can actually pay now, right? So obviously, ideally, we want to not have to interact with payers, but there might be one-off situations where you have slow adopters upon your deployment with Paystand and a couple stragglers, or you might just have somebody that calls in, says, hey, I'm not in front of my email, but I had a couple questions on the request you sent over. You guys sorted that out, and they say, okay, can you go ahead and make that payment for me, Zachary, while I got you on the phone? I can say, yep. I have a virtual terminal here, and instead of recapturing that payment sensitive information or writing that down, if you've made a payment with me before, I'll just go ahead and say, yep, looks like you have a payment method ending in 4321. Do you want to utilize that? They'll say yes. Again, just really enhancing that payment experience and making the payer feel comfortable. If they haven't tokenized the payment method with you, or used processed the payment with you in the past, we can go ahead and capture a payment token over the phone real time as well, using ACH or credit card. But again, you're not writing that down. You can even let the payer know, I'm actually putting this into my PCI compliant AR tool instead of not writing that down. Again, giving them kind of an additional sense of security around that. Additionally, here you can enroll this invoice in an automated collection plan. So we might go in here and say, hey, as soon as this invoice is created, go ahead and follow this automated outreach. But again, we know that looks different for each customer or each payer. So you might come here and say, hey, these guys aren't great about paying. So maybe I give them a different collection plan where I'm reaching out a little more early and a little more often. And we do have different options where if you want, what we can do is actually reach out, and as soon as the payment or the invoice is created in your ERP, we can go ahead and deliver that to your customer, acting as automatic deliverable of that initial invoice for you as well, if you don't want to send them manually out of Business Central. So we're giving you two different ways to get that invoice into your payer's hands in an automated fashion. You can do it in BC and leverage our link, or you can just create it in BC, and then when it's assigned to that collection plan, we'll see that first step is to get that invoice out upon creation or posting, and we'll get that delivered into your payer's hands. And then additionally, we realize there might be things that you need outside of an automated collection plan. A one-time reminder where you reach out to me and you say, hey, Zachary, I had a question for you about this invoice. It looks like based on our order, this or that, wasn't taken care of. And if you can provide me additional documentation, I'll go ahead and get you paid now. So then what I can do is I can do a one-off payment request where I say, hey, Kathy, per our discussion, please review attachment and submit payment. And now what I can do is just upload any corresponding files that might be outside of the actual invoice that would help them understand that the payment needs to be fulfilled. And then with that, I can even preview what that's going to look like for my payer. It has my note, it has a Slick Pay Now payment link, just like we've seen before, with that payment reminder sent to their email. So again, just a lot of functionality around that. But we do take it a step further as well. So what I want to do is I want to go through here and I want to select a receivable that has a collection plan assigned, which we can see here. And so what I'll do is I'll select this receivable, and now we'll give you further granularity on that automated outreach that's taken place on your behalf. So you're not being left in the dark. And then we'll actually let you know, hey, what has been clicked on, what's been opened. When you follow up, there's no gray area or subjectivity on if you were to call me and say, hey, Zachary, have you gotten the notification to make payment on invoice 1212? Now the follow-up looks like, hey, Zachary, I see you're reviewing the payment request that I sent over on invoice 1212. What can I answer for you today to get that paid? Right? So that's really powerful that we've seen in terms of AR teams and their follow-up. You have an idea of what's being sent out on your behalf and what's being opened up, etc. Hopefully you don't have to send 42 emails out. It is a demo environment, but we do have organizations that say, hey, once they're X days past due, I want them getting notified every single day. I want to be in their ear, but I don't want my team to have to do that every single day. So again, just the kind of the power of that collection automation. Another thing that we can do is if, great, the automation's taken place, but my team has interacted now and interjected at a certain point, placed the phone call, and now we have additional context as to why that's not getting paid. Maybe I want to go in and I want to add a manual note here that says, spoke with Zach, they are moving offices, expect payment 10 days late. And now I can add that note and it'll automatically be added to that customer log. So not only are we doing the automated outreach, your team can go ahead and add notes. And now anybody in the organization that wants to come look at an aging receivable and see what's going on and why we're not collecting payment, they can come look at this customer log and have a better idea of where the standing is on that payment. And now, it's nice because now my team is not disconnected and they're not going to follow up on something that it's been notated that, hey, we are expecting payment here. Just show them grace for the next 10 days and then we should expect payment there. Right? So just a lot of power there. Now what I want to do is I want to pivot over to the customer record. So that was all being assigned on an individual invoice level, but you might say, hey, I want to do a broad stroke deployment or application, because typically those payment engagements that you set forth and the outreach that you want to dictate to that payer is on a payer by payer, customer by customer basis and not on an individual invoice basis. So again, you can turn on auto pay for that customer as a whole, and then any invoice that would be created in this instance for ERP would automatically be ported over and processed on the auto pay date that you set forth. Now, when you're doing the auto pay, you can say, I want to send a reminder as soon as the invoice is synced, or you might even say, I want to send a reminder maybe 3 days before that auto pay is run to go ahead and give them a heads up and make sure their ducks are in a row before we process that auto pay. So just kind of keep that in mind. Additional functionality that you see here is just a snapshot of the customer health with you and the the engagements or revenue that's come forth from them. So what's their value? What's their monthly spend? Also, who's my contact over there? And then again, like we saw on the individual invoice level, if you want to come in here and add notes, it's only viewable for your team side. So if you want to put notes in here that are, hey, this customer, we're dealing with this, that, and the third, or this customer, is in risk of maybe losing certain credit terms, or we're not, if they don't get this paid within certain constraints, we're not going to allow future orders and things like that, right? So again, that can also be done on the customer level. And then earlier I showed you that multi-invoice presentment or that statement view. That's what this is. So instead of having them, defer to that off of an individual invoice reminder, if you want to automatically send them a reminder every Monday or every other week, they can go ahead and review all outstanding invoices. You're getting in front of them early and often to let them look at everything that needs to be paid to your organization, and you can even preview that email. And again, that's a dynamic link, so when they get that, if they want to go ahead and save that on their end, they don't have to be relying on receiving that from you. They can refresh that URL and it'll do a real-time call, if you will, back into your ERP and pull in any new invoices that were created between when you sent your last reminder and when they're interacting with that payment experience. And then again, this is the collection plans that essentially allows you to go ahead and deploy a collection plan on a customer level as opposed to the invoice level. So now anytime a new invoice for Universal Alarm, the customer here, is created in BC, we'll automatically wait for it to be posted. We'll get it out into your payer's hands, and then we'll reach out on the cadence that you want. Obviously here it's a little lighter, but again, if they're notably bad payers, any new invoice that's brought over will follow this collection plan as well. Okay, last thing I want to show you here, because I know I've given everyone quite a soliloquy and I'm jamming a lot into your head here, is the idea of the fees and incentives. So this is very rare, and you're not going to get this tool set with typically with organizations that are processing payments, but with Paystand, we're a monthly subscription and we're a software first company. So our goal is not to make all of our money on transaction fees. So what you can do now is you can have different payment experiences for different payers. Again, we're very configurable. We understand it's sensitive and you have customer by customer engagements. So what you can do is you can come interact with this payment experience and say, with this payer, bank to bank will be free, ACH will allow free, credit card, we are going to present a 3% fee. Or you know what, if it's an Amex, we might even charge more. It might be 4% for Amex. Or we can take it a step further and say, we look at credit card as a convenience or as a luxury. So this payer, we're actually not even going to offer credit card to them. It'll just be a bank to bank and ACH and kind of those cost effective payment rails, if you will. And then what a lot of organizations have come back, finance AR teams have come back and told me is that they're actually using this as kind of leverage or a bargaining chip, where if they offer bank to bank and ACH, someone might call and say, hey, I'd like to use credit card because I love the rewards and points that go behind it. And now I can just say, that's great, I'll turn on credit card for you. However, just note that when I turn that on, I am going to ask that you incur that convenience fee because I have offered these free alternatives for you, right? Or sometimes what we hear is organizations say, I'll go ahead and eat that fee for you. However, I'm going to ask that you pay in an earlier manner or in shorter terms and things like that. So again, giving you that tool set that you need, and you're going to turn those knobs and dials to dictate the payer behavior that you want to see on a customer by customer or payer by payer basis, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. With that, I threw a lot at you, so I am going to kind of pivot back here. That concludes the demo that I had for you today, and then we'll dive back into slideshow here. And just in conclusion here, I want to open it up. If we do have any questions, don't feel like you need to digest this and ask any questions now. If you want to put them in the chat, you can. If not, what you can do is you can reach out to us, and I'll show our contact information here momentarily. But if you want to scan this QR code, you can reach out to Luke and the Turnkey team with any questions that you might have. Also, the bottom QR code, very exciting information. We are going to be at Community Summit this year. If you guys are not familiar with Community Summit, it is the biggest dynamic conference, kind of like the Super Bowl, if you will, where they have a lot of great sessions that's going to help you get the most value out of your ERP, but also you're going to be able to meet, get FaceTime with your partners. Also, you'll be able to evaluate different ISVs like Paystand. We have a big booth there. We are a sponsor. We do have a fun, engaging activity on the floor this year in the form of a kind of an 80s style arcade. But you can scan this QR code, and we are going to do a randomized drawing for anyone who scans that and meets with us. And you'll be eligible to win a trip to Community Summit on our dime. So expenses paid, we'll get you down there. We'll take care of your flight. We'll get you a ticket to Community Summit and get your lodging taken care of. So very excited. If you've kind of on the fence, you want to go, but maybe can't get it approved, things like that, meet with me and let's see if we can add some value to you in the form of Paystand's functionality. And then also maybe we can get you down to Community Summit as well. Okay, so with that, I just want to give you this contact information here. Hopefully you guys have found a lot of value out of this. My name is Zachary. Again, I'm Senior Account Executive over at Paystand. I work exclusively with Dynamics and the ERPs within the Dynamics ecosystem. I do have a partner manager, Karen Wainwright, as well. Even though she didn't speak today, she's a very valuable resource that kind of manages our relationships with different partners in the ecosystem. So feel free to reach out to Karen as well. And then again, the QR code for the Turnkey team, whether it's Luke or a different contact over there, we'd love to hear from you. With that in mind, I want to open it up to Luke and see if Luke has any other questions or feedback or comments that he'd like to make. And if not, we can conclude. Luke, anything from your end before I give everyone some time back?
I don't think so, Zach. That was great. Yeah, hope everyone, found that valuable and everything. And if you do have any questions, like Zach said, feel free to reach out to us with that contact us link or Paystand's team. So, no, I think that does it for me. That was a great session.
Zach, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. I was just thanking
Yes.
everyone for their time. So I appreciate everyone. Hopefully we can get some FaceTime and some meetings with you guys. We can dive into your use case or your anybody else that might think that this is valuable. Feel free to reach out to Luke to I. We'll get some time on the calendar. We'll get you in this winter trip raffle and we'll look to add some value. So hopefully I can see some of you down at Community Summit. The Paystand team will be there. I know some of the Turnkey team will be there as well. So with that, everyone have a great rest of your day and I look forward to meeting with you all. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.